Because I'm jet setting out of here, so I can't make it to the next one, unfortunately. So I've relinquished my my hoe and shovel and pitchfork.
I'm sure you saying you relinquished your hoe is not going to make it into an outtake. Oh boy. Hello and welcome to episode 123 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I'm your host, Mike Salbato, and today I'm at about 75%. But we're still going to have a good show here, I think, because as far as I know, the rest of my panel is around 100%, or at least above 75. So collectively, I think we can make this work. But yes, I'm semi-apologizing in advance if I'm sort of not here today, but that's okay. We will be all right. So yeah, speaking of my panel, with me today are three wonderful fans of RPG music, starting with Hilary.
Hello, everyone.
Also, Pat is here.
I'm here at a solid 83%.
Oh, heck yeah.
Ooh, I want to be 87.5.
Okay. I don't know why that, but okay. How about you, Greg?
Hi, everybody. I'm a spinning hourglass right now.
Uh-oh. I don't even know what that... Does it even have a number?
No. I mean, sorry. I have to translate for you. I'm a spinning pinwheel.
Oh, yes. Beach ball, actually. Thank you. Beach ball of death. Okay. Yeah. Yes. I understand the hourglass. I know Windows exists. All right. Well, again, overall, I think we're at least in the green. Mm-hmm. So we'll be all right. We are.
I mean, we got a good subject, so I think we can all pull it together for that, for sure.
Yeah. Today, as you may guess from the title, we are doing another composer episode. It's been not too long, but a little while since our last one. So today we are going to be talking about the music of Hiroki Kikuta. So a lot of RPG fans definitely know him from, classic games like Secret of Mana and some other stuff, which of course is represented here today, although in an interesting way. But I'm really happy about this because everyone really made an effort to bring on a really diverse lineup of music representing Kikuta's different contributions, like back when he worked at Square, and now today he's independent, but he just keeps showing up on really unexpected places, and I think it's really cool. So we are going to be talking about all of that today. Yeah,
I think one major theme you are going to be hearing is our appreciation for him being so collaborative with indie developers and just helping out smaller studios.
Yeah.
It's great to see.
For sure. So I always like to ask why people are here. I'm here because I'm the host. But no, I mean, also I really like his music. So I think it's long overdue that we do an episode about him. But that's me. How about you, Pat? What drew you to this one?
Well, honestly, if I could be on every single episode, I probably would be. But I especially wanted to join this one because I do think there is something really special about the way Kikuta thinks about writing music. He's a very thoughtful and intellectual person. He's done a lot of interviews and just even, written about his creation process, not just for music, but for other things too. And I'm sure we'll touch on that later because he's done more than just music. And then, rubbing shoulders with the famous in our substrata of culture. I was actually fortunate enough to meet Hiroki Kikuta 13 years ago. It was either 12 or 13 years ago. It was the last year that MagFest wasn't at the Gaylord in National Harbor. It was at a smaller hotel. And he got really sick, but he also played a show that first night. And he had a lot of courage to just show up and do what he did, especially when it wasn't feeling well. And I think I always liked him as a musician, but after that experience, I was like, no, this dude is like the real deal. He's super cool. Kikuta came back years later, like long after I, stopped getting down to MagFest because I only went from like 09 to 13. I think that's right.
Oh, I see.
So
I'm a little sad we missed each other there, Pat.
I know. Well, one of these days I'm going to get down there again.
Yay.
Us too.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'd love to at some point. Yeah.
One of these days. Great event.
Yeah. How about you, Greg? What brought you here?
I love talking about music in general. I come from the same camp of Pat of like I'd be on everyone if I could just to talk about music, whether I've played the games or not. It's just fun. But I don't know. Hiroki Kikuta has made some music that has just stuck with me for years. Secret of Mana was one of my formative JRPGs. And his music has stuck with me ever since then, and has held a special place in my heart for it. And some of like the first like remixes I got back in the early days of downloading music and stuff like that were mostly Secret of Mana renditions and such. And it was it's special. And I also had the choice between making sure this one happened or the farming one happened, so my loyalties lie with Kikuta.
No.
Nice. Hilary.
Yes.
What brought you onto this episode?
I will start by saying that the Secret of Mana soundtrack was among the first that I ever bought. It's a very memorable soundtrack for me. Yeah. And I've just really enjoyed, I like being on the composer spotlights in general, but I've really enjoyed following Kikuta's work and kind of trajectory, like we briefly mentioned with the projects he's picked. I'm also a big fan of Koudelka and Shadow Hearts, so that also factored into it. Spoiler alert. So
I never knew that.
So there are many reasons.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should get into our first couple songs here then.
Yeah, so people can hear the music.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm up. I'm first. Okay. So
you are.
I am bringing a song that I really thought was pluralized, but everything I'm looking at says "Where Angel Fear to Tread," and this is the version from the Trials of Mana remake from 2020. And then after that, we're doing our other Mana song, which is Greg.
Oh,
yeah.
Can I propose a name for this block?
Oh, sure.
Can we call this the Fiji Block?
Fiji Block?
Because I was reading and I learned that a lot of Kikuta's early Mana music was kind of inspired by travels to Fiji.
Oh.
Which I can totally see.
Okay.
Neato.
I didn't know that. Okay, the Fiji Block.
There you go. And I chose, another Mana song from Prescription for Sleep, Lullabies of Mana, a nice chill rendition of Into the Thick of It by Gentle Love.
Nice. All right. Let's go check out Where Angel Fear to Tread and Into the Thick of It. Okay, first, just to get it out of the way, no, I have still not played Trials of Mana, even now with the remake. But it's what?
You played some of it.
I played some of it.
You've heard this song in context at least.
That's true. Well, we played the original, the collection version. I have not played the remake much, but either way, I haven't finished it. But yeah, I mean, you know, the point is, though, it's too vital of a classic RPG that I really liked. I really wanted it to be here, and especially pairing it with Secret of Mana, I thought that would be a lot of fun. So anyway, yes, I need to play it or at least finish it. So please don't at me. That aside, only some of the tracks on the remake soundtrack were orchestrated. And I think overall it's a great soundtrack, but I really wanted to pick one of the orchestrated ones. So this one just is so beautiful. Like I listened to, I was going through an order. I'm like, okay, let's listen to the first couple. And like, I kept coming back to this. So obviously this is the one I was meant to bring on, but it's so nice. And I don't really have a lot of good words for it besides the fact that it's beautiful, and I just enjoy it a lot. And, you know, of course I like the part around, did I mark it? Yes. Like around 1 minute 50, because there's some familiar secret of Mana themes, or a theme coming in there, and it's nice. It's a good throwback, but still has its own unique sound.
Mm-hmm. It's lovely how he does his own callback, so to speak, in there.
I'll give the shout out to Sachiko Miyano, who, if y'all have been listening to the show long enough, you'll know she's one of 2 or 3 sort of mainstays in the orchestral arrangement scene for Square Enix.
Yay!
Going back to, I think, like the Kingdom Hearts first piano collection might be one of her earliest credits, and she's been doing all kinds of different sort of orchestral and classical projects with Square Enix for, I guess 15 plus years. And really, really did a nice job with her contributions to Trials of Mana, which are few. It might just be this and one other, but the whole remake soundtracks, you know, there was a lot of fuss about whether or not they were worth it compared to the original, but I think for Trials of Mana, and especially for this track, like, this feels really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I like the original of this song too, of course, but I really thought this was a case where the orchestral treatment, so to speak, enhanced it. So glad to hear it.
Which is what you like to hope for, yeah.
Yeah, I think the original track, you know, if you listen back to the old Super Famicom version, like, the song is written with an orchestral ensemble in mind. You can tell with the use of the synth. And so it felt, you know, unlike so many songs where Kikuta is very intentional about trying to use sounds within the hardware limitation that still sound really good or sound really cool. You know, you're kind of stuck with that same sort of synth pad orchestral sound whenever you want to sound orchestral on the Super Nintendo. Like, it's the same sound font that you would hear on like every Final Fantasy whenever they want to do like a string ensemble. And so, like, in that sense, I don't think it was a mistake to go full orchestra with it. It was like, it was a fulfilling of what Kikuta would have wanted, you know, 30 years prior.
Right,
25 years prior.
And adding to that, I mean, this song is sort of an overture, right? It's not like quite full, you know, musical theater. Here's everything you're going to see in the show kind of overture, but like, it is kind of an
really
overview
sets
of the world.
Tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the sweeping nature of the instrumentation to it, especially how it opens, like, it very much is like, you know, peering through the clouds down at the Mana Tree and the world below, and it really sets the scene for what's to come. And it's such a delicate song while also being very powerful at the same time, especially with that how it transitions from that really delicate, alluring opening that really harkens back to Fear of the Heavens, and then just builds into that dynamic, really exciting, thrilling theme of adventure that comes in.
If the Mana musical work was sort of inspired by those like tropical Fiji sort of environments, I could kind of see this song functioning sort of the same way that the Lord of the Rings environments exist in New Zealand. I don't know. It's kind of a weird comparison to make.
How do you mean?
So you want to go to Fiji and see if like there's walking mushrooms and we can meet Flamey?
No.
But no, how do you mean? Like, I'm just
okay.
I'm interested. I want to hear this out.
So I was kind of like listening to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack there's just this really nice kind of cohesion between the New Zealand environments and the score, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It just
I see
feels
what
very,
you mean.
very right and very, very natural. And I'm kind of picturing the same thing with this. Like,
Like they're just as much themed for the character of New Zealand as much as they are for the Middle Earth kind of thing.
kind of,
you're saying.
yeah.
Okay.
The features of the actual landscape. I don't know.
So
All right.
gotcha. Okay.
Or they
so you
fit.
feel
They
like this
fit
would
with
be.
it.
You could listen to this while strolling through Fiji. so to
Oh, I'm
speak,
sure.
the
I'm sure you
countryside. I
could.
Gotcha.
Why not?
Yeah.
So that leads me to two things. Either one of us needs to do that,
Okay.
or if anyone listening has been to Fiji and happened to listen to any of this music while there, you could help.
Or is
confirm.
familiar. Yes. Help us confirm.
Yeah.
I think it might fit as well as that.
Is this the sound of Fiji? All right.
I don't know.
I really want to know. No, I can see it. I can see it.
I don't know what my brain was doing.
Well, if that's what inspired him, I think that's an interesting thought. Because I do see what you mean about Lord of the Rings music.
Well, it's interesting when you not interesting, so to speak. It's not shocking that you picked this as a song either, Mike. Because I mean, obviously, you can't avoid either of these two soundtracks when you're talking about Kikuta and like what defines him as an artist and speaks to what he's done, and the fact that like Where Angel Fear to Tread has like a little bit of Fear of Heavens in it as well. Like it's kind of getting the best of both worlds, which I think I spoke to. That's the word I'm looking for in my review of the 25th anniversary album. Because I think this is one of the songs I highlighted too, because it's so good, and it's a very similar rendition in many ways actually. But it's the song just it's stunning. It links it to its source to the first game, but it's still very much its very own thing, much like how Final Fantasy kind of always goes its own directions. At least this one, the world's all cohesive, so it makes sense that the music would be united, but it's a whole new side adventure somewhere else kind of thing. It's a breathtaking piece of music.
And I think it's also worth mentioning that our Fiji block here, I think this might be the last time I mention Fiji.
Take a shot every time Hilary says Fiji.
Yeah. These are some of Kikuta's early works, too.
That's true.
Yeah,
Like, really
and
early.
he pushed those systems beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And he created a lot of his own like sound samples, right?
That sounds right. Yeah, I think someone has spoken to that before on one of our
specifically
episodes.
Yeah,
For
specifically
Secret, right?
Secret of Mana,
Yeah.
for Seiken Densetsu 2. He worked with effects programmer. I can't remember if it's Minoru Okao on that game or if it was someone else, but he was very frustrated with a lot of the sound fonts that had been developed up to that point, that could fit in very, very small spaces, and he made a whole bunch of custom ones for percussion, and
Not surprising.
Yeah, he actually made like a whole bunch of different types of percussion that took up less space than like the standard like percussion lineup that existed in like the sound banks of most Super Nintendo games.
Oh, that's cool.
And
It
then
makes such a difference in the Secret of Mana soundtrack. Like if I had to pick one interesting thing about it, it's that variety of percussion. It makes it so
and
colorful.
And the chanting voices for I can't remember the name of the song, which is pathetic, but the fight against like the Lich Death Lord near the end of the game.
Oh yes.
That voice sample was something custom that like he like developed and pushed to be in the game that like took up a ton of space, but like the end result is something like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, that was very, very memorable.
Yep, I was about to say.
Yeah, you're not gonna like you can play a ton of other Super Nintendo games and not really hear things like that.
Right.
Yeah, there were other sounds too, but I remember the percussion and the chanting were two very big ones.
Sweet.
Yeah. That is a really great segue to Secret of Mana, though. So thank you for that.
That's fair, and
Greg,
that's
that's your
where
cue.
my song came from. Yeah, which was a very long listen, which I hope everybody enjoyed, and may or may not have fallen asleep to.
Not today, but I have.
I more mean our listeners too. Maybe they woke up and they're back with us. But it's I've always when I think of Secret of Mana, Into the Thick of It is one of like the key songs that comes up for me. It's synonymous with the title of the game for me. Jaunting around the woods and beating up rabbits and walking mushrooms and such, and and having bits of the music cut out due to your attacks, which is very much just what that game was and dates that game in its way. So I love the song and I love the driving nature behind it, but I was just kind of listening around to like some different versions, and I hadn't listened to this album in a while, and I was like, oh, I really love that it slows it down. Like, it's kind of like similar to what TPR did with his album as well, like it taking it a very different direction. These songs that usually are driving and energetic, and it works so well as this lovely, calming, beautiful jazz lounge thing that also I feel is very reminiscent of Yoko Kanno's work on Cowboy Bebop. Some of my favorite songs kind of still have that wistful jazz clarinet kind of vibe. Or is it an alt? Is it a sax? Or I think it's clarinet,
I
right?
think it's a Gentle Love is a sax and a piano, right?
Yes, that is
That's right. Okay.
Noriko Hibino on sax and Ayaki on piano.
Thank you. So yeah, it's that sax work is just incredible. I love the heights it goes to while still being so mellow and so relaxing. Like I would never have thought of this song as being something that could be a lullaby, but the fact that they make it work, and then also have like that beautiful bridge in the middle where they take it in its own direction but still feels part of the song and the world.
Right.
It's just an incredible rendition.
I had a whole spiel about that improvisation in the middle because it was just really cool the way like the piano kind of set the parameter and the sax while improvising kind of stayed within that to keep everything at a very even keel but still kind of fun and improv-y. I don't know. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's delightfully playful.
Yeah, Hibino's his ad-lib sections, his improvs on like pretty much almost every, Gentle Love, Prescription for Sleep album. You're going to get a little bit of it. We get a lot of it on this one, and it really evolves and even moves tangentially away from the core melody, and I think it works. It works well. I think if you study the music theory on it, there's a couple like modulations, like shifts in key for like 8 measures at a time that'll come back down, and that allows, from a jazz music theory perspective, that allows for so much playfulness. And I think, despite the fact that this is a slow and calm one, that there's also something extremely playful about this, which, when you think about the purpose of the source material, that this was sort of the overworld music at the beginning of the game and is used throughout the game in different places, and is sort of synonymous with like your first like taste of adventure in that game, and just sort of like doing it and getting used to the gameplay loop and leveling up and all of that. Like, it's all that, and it feels really, really good. I think the entire Lullabies of Mana album is really good.
It's one of my favorite Prescription for Sleep albums, I think.
I think for me, that and the Undertale album, I think those were their best to date, though the volume 3 that they put out recently, and I think I reviewed, was also very good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, they're a great duo. I understand that. I think Kikuta is also on he's also like an artist on the Scarlet Moon label alongside the Gentle Love duo. So I don't know if he had a direct play in like song selection or production of this album. I can't remember. I'd have to go look, but I know they're like tight, like they're good, like they all know each other, and they're
That's neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up too, because this is one of the earlier ones. I know when the Stardew one came out, that the fact that Concerned Ape was like really like involved in the process was sort of a novel thing. I don't know that it was the first time the original composer was involved, like directly involved, but I know that was a big thing for that album.
And it very well could have been in like a casual, like, oh hey, this is what I'm working at. Like, Could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
That was a good album too. I forgot about starting this
Yeah.
album.
Yep.
That's a good one.
That was
That's a good one.
I'm glad you said that because it was actually on the episode prior to this.
Yay.
Which has not been posted as we're recording, but yeah. That's actually one of the things I was going to say. Like, I think this is the first time that we've had Prescription for Sleep, 2 different albums on back-to-back episodes.
We could do a whole Prescription for Sleep episode.
We absolutely could.
If we don't fall asleep
There's so much material they done. Well, they have that Battle album that's a little more upbeat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I reviewed that one.
You know what I love about them though? Like all these albums. I haven't listened to every single one, but I have several of them. But they don't, and this is a little bit like what Greg said, but they don't always feature songs you'd expect because there's so many already relaxing RPG music that you think, oh, well, I could see this, like that'll be on that album or this will be there. And this is not one that I probably would have, thought of myself.
It's very much like a challenge accepted kind of situation.
Yeah. Like they took this carefree sort of like bouncy field track and like they're so like carefully and turned it into this soft, slow jam. Like it's not as extreme as making like sleepy versions of battle music, although they've done that too. But I just think I just love hearing that. Like that's one of my favorite things on all of these albums is just to see like the creative way that they take something that you would not expect to work, and then make this like sleepy, relaxing version of it.
And I think one of the things that really like makes this a good, relaxing track for me is, what they've done with the existing melody, but also the sax improvisation leading into the really kind of slow, gentle piano improv. I think that allows the track to do a great job of kind of like lulling you into relaxation. It's not immediately just like it's at its slowest, most relaxing point with a certain section with the piano a good way into the track, which I think is very helpful for relaxation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, are we properly relaxed to go into the, what are we calling this block?
Uh-oh.
I told you I was going to put you guys on the spot.
The Indie Darling block?
Ooh.
I like Indie Darling block.
Okay, well, so it shall be. So, Pat, what are we starting with for this block?
We're getting the main character theme, Ajna, from the game Indivisible.
Nice. And hey, Greg, it's your turn again.
Just get me out of the way. With another beautiful place with mushrooms, Land of Blooming Mushrooms from the Tangledeep soundtrack. This is the arranged version of that track.
Should we talk about your mushroom theme today? Are you trying to tell us something?
Greg, is
They're
your
delicious.
mind expanding? Are you having deep thoughts?
All right. Let's go listen to
You bet.
Ajna and Land of Blooming Mushrooms.
All right, well, y'all just heard a track from Indivisible, a track from Tangledeep. Let's get into it. Ajna, it's track 3 on the Indivisible original soundtrack. It's early in the soundtrack because it's the main character theme. It's kind of the main game theme. And, you know, there's a lot that I think is really significant about Indivisible and what Hiroki Kikuta is passionate about. The developers for Indivisible, same folks who did Skullgirls. I don't know why I can't remember the name of the studio, but they intentionally created a game that was really sort of steeped in the culture and religion of Southeast Asia, like Mahayana-style Buddhism. And so if you think about like, you know, the Isle of Bali in Indonesia and the Philippines and maybe even as far as Fiji, like there's really this Southeast Asia and Oceania like vibe that was already built into the game's lore and the game's aesthetic. And so they very intentionally sought out Kikuta, who had been open about that influence, not just in his early his mana titles, Seigen Densetsu 2 and 3, but as sort of an area of interest that he, you know, had in general, especially with you know, the music. I mentioned the chanting earlier. There's a name for that chanting, and it's used again in Indivisible. Mm-hmm. It's really wild and
specific.
Yeah, his like the ethnomusicologist in Kikuta is alive and well. He really looks into like cool and weird stuff that is normal in other parts of the world, but is weird to us. And even, you know, for him, you know, Japan is still far enough from all of that that it was, you know, different enough and sort of foreign enough to him that like it feels exotic to him. And Indivisible pulls from a lot of myths as well. I should note they kind of get worldwide with human sort of myth and culture eventually, but it definitely starts and is focused around Southeast Asia. And you can tell just in the instruments used, some of the like bells and chimes in Ajna, like that's where we're at. And it's just a great sound, great overall aesthetic. As the Gen Z kids would say, great vibes.
It was like he was like, oh, I have more percussion to use. I don't have to make it up this time. And
no limitations. He can
so
do
many different percussion. Yeah, so much different types of percussion. It's beautiful.
No more imitations. Okay, this is where I've got to mention Kikuta's academic background because it totally makes sense if you listen to his music enough. He does not have formal music training. His degree is actually in religious studies, philosophy, and cultural anthropology.
Oh, okay.
That's so cool.
I really love that you always do this kind of research.
So
I try to research the songs and stuff, but you always research the person, and I always learn interesting stuff.
So I just think it's so neat how he brings that background to every single like thing he does.
Yeah, my bachelor's degree is also cultural anthropology.
Yay!
And you can specialize and get certificates in like ethnomusicology specifically in a lot of anth programs in America today.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if he got to do that in the 80s or 90s when he was in school, but like
I hope so.
He definitely like ethnomusicology as part of his understanding of culture is definitely strong. It's alive and well. And when we get to a later track that you pulled from Hilary, I think we can go even deeper into that.
Yep. I'm ready.
Because philosophy and like cultures of humanity, like that's we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. But this is firmly centered in that, like you described, that area of the world and that tradition.
And I just remembered, I think it's Lab Zero Games. I think
that
Lab
sounds
Zero
right.
Games,
there you go. Yeah.
When they were like, we got it. If we're gonna make a game like this, we got to have this guy doing it because like it's like central to what he does. It was such an obvious fit.
Yeah. Yep.
And as we were discussing off air, his most recent solo soundtrack after a long break from them.
Yeah, he did do a Shining game. Was it Shining Hearts? In like 2010. But
He
other
did-
than that, like,
He did Shining Arc,
yeah,
and he did like one song, or just like he contributed to Shining Hearts, because we looked it up.
Yeah.
He did a little bit
that's
on
right.
that.
Shining
but not
Arc
the
is
whole
what he
album.
did.
But he was a solo on one Shining game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on Shining Arc. Yeah.
Shining Arc, yeah. But yeah, he was just sort of a contributor here and there for a while, and then with Indivisible, he came back with a whole, like, it was all him,
Yay!
and it's all good, baby. It is all good. I think Ajna, I picked it because it's thematic, it's representative, it's a good starting place. People should go check out the rest of it. There's also like an extended, I think, like an OST plus.
Yeah.
That I never got around to reviewing, and I feel shame about this. But
There's still time.
like, there is. Before I die, I'm going to review OST plus, because there's even more. I think it was like extra DLC, unreleased, some beta versions of songs and stuff like that, like all the good stuff.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those albums, and so
That's really neat.
yeah.
I love this song when I was first hearing it. Weirdly enough, because he didn't do any of the work on Legend of Mana, but it was really hitting me with Moonlit City Roa. It was almost like if he had done a version of it, it would have sounded like this kind of thing if he had done Legend of Mana. I don't know what did or didn't go down as to why they didn't bring him back for it, or if he just wasn't with Square and what the deal was, but still.
He was not with Square, and we're definitely going to be touching on that.
Mm.
Yeah,
we're
he'd
going to talk
already-
about where he was at the time, but yeah, I think when Shimomura wrote the music for Roa, like, someone was like, try to get that try to get that almost like mountain city, like sort of the Tibetan Buddhist sound that you can hear from some of the tracks from Secret of Mana, like,
Yeah.
channel the SD2 and SD3, like that feel, and
I
like
think
that's
of the
yeah.
tracks on Legend, that's definitely one of them.
because of the chimes, or the it's like a bell or chime that's very like
Yeah.
distinctly Southeast Asian. I can't remember the name of
Yeah.
it, but it's one that Kikuta used like everywhere, and it's very Southeast Asian. Like, it's used in a lot of countries in Southeast Asia traditionally.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can
It's
hear
sad
it, like,
that I
even
don't know
in-
the name of it.
Even
I'm
like
gonna
that
find
boss
out
battle you were
before
mentioning in
Yeah.
Secret of Mana too, like he uses it even there. It's not just used to calming effect. Like he gets. I'm like on the word you just used, but yeah, his ethnic influence in the music is everywhere. It's not just to establish a place or a vibe or whatever. It's part of what makes the soundtrack so unique, and yeah, it's kind of a calling card for him. Like, you could definitely still hear the similarities in some of this in what it is, but now it's just fuller. He's got a better equipment, better technology, better sound library to work from, and it's
Like
the
we said,
natural evolution of his work.
no imitations anymore, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Like, the song is great. Like, I haven't honestly listened to any of Indivisible, or if I did, it's been ages. Like, I'd forgotten. I've been meaning to play it one of these days, but haven't gotten around to it. But it's the soundtrack is. If this is an indication of the rest of the soundtrack, then I happily want to consume more of it.
Yeah. And so I did look it up. In Bali, they use xylophones made out of bronze and bamboo instead of like a traditional wood xylophone. And there are also like Balinese wind chimes that you can pitch and turn into music instead of just letting it blow like a natural wind chime. And I think that latter one is the sound that's being emulated.
That repeating part in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a bell or
I think
a
that's
gong
what
kind
that
of
is.
use.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, and that's what I picture too in he's used in Moonlit City Roa as well.
Yeah. That's what I imagine, that the one in Roa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love the flute that also is like carrying the melody in this. Like it makes her sound, even though like she looks pretty intense, Ajna. It speaks to like a gentleness inside of her, or that there's something fragile until you kind of get to that turning point where it's like doo doo doo, and it gets more hopeful.
Yeah.
Like she's dynamic. Like, the song is very dynamic. It carries it really
Much like
does
the
a good job of-
character.
Yeah.
Without being
Yeah.
jarring, like there's some contrast, but it's not overly like you don't have any trouble understanding how it all fits together.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a drama shift as you can get in some like epic boss battles and stuff like that, where it's like almost like an entirely different song, but not.
And that actually brings me to another Kikuta music trait that I absolutely
yay.
love.
Fact time.
A Kikutism?
Oh, a Kikutism.
It's his tendency to just. I love the way he transitions between sections in a lot of his music because it is less like. I'm trying to think. I guess some people would say epic, but it still works really well. And it's when he goes from, more complex instrumentation to a lot of his songs will have a section, and the flute. I think this is part of this in this song. A lot of the instruments drop out, and it's the flute and the percussion. It's usually something in the percussion
Okay.
in a lot of Kikuta's music, and those sections. It's just so effective for me.
It's a little less of now we're at this part, whereas more of like a the music's changed.
But
Like,
you still
it
get
takes
the-
you a
but you
second to catch up.
But you still get the effect without it being in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sudden shift through a drop off is like you can even hear it if you listen to like the original version of like Into the Thick of It. Like there's that sort of like 8 measure break before the loop.
Yep.
Where it's just like I was gonna sing it. I'm not gonna sing it, but I think everyone knows what it is. The percussion drops out and it's just like guitar and flute. It's really nice when he does that.
That's one where it's not the percussion that stays, but yes.
Right. Yeah, it just sort of falls away for a second and then you're back in.
And it's not to disparage those shifts. Like there's a place for them for sure to have those big dramatic transitions, but
how he does
it's
those.
refreshing that he doesn't. Yeah, it's elegant.
How he
has
does
an
those, I
elegance
find
about
it
his
very
work.
elegant. It's very in line with my tastes. So
Yeah,
showing some appreciation.
Yeah.
He definitely has an elegance to his compositions. Even the stuff that is more like drum and bass heavy and whatnot. Like it's the way it still kind of all weaves together, and it always just flows very organically. It feels.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like this transition to our next song. See how organic that was?
Well, it's about mushrooms, so there you go, organics.
Yeah.
Land of Blooming Mushrooms. Tangledeep is on my 2 playlist, but I have definitely listened to it because it has some stellar composers on it as well, like Kirk Hope and Kikuta and like that. The whole soundtrack's great, and I think he was just like a little guest artist on this one since this is his only real song.
Yeah,
but it's very Kikuta.
This soundtrack was Zircon, right?
Yeah.
With Kikuta doing
Well,
some...
the game and soundtrack was Zircon. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he developed it too.
Oh no! Don't say that. Now you're making me question.
Again, I don't know much about it, so I
All
believe
right.
you.
Now I gotta look it up. I don't want to.
That's fine.
I want to say the wrong thing.
Holding for fact checking.
That's fine. I mean, you can keep talking about the song though.
Oh, it's fair. This song is one of the standouts for me on the soundtrack. Yes?
Yes.
Well, I'm saying
Impact
yes.
Gameworks was founded in 2016 by Andrew Aversa.
Yep,
aka
and the name
Zircon.
coincides with his music company, which is Impact Soundworks. So
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Currently working on Flowstone Saga, which
Ooh.
has a demo
Nice.
on Steam, but I haven't played it yet. I hear it's good though.
And this game looks great too, and like Kakuta's music feels right at home. And so Land of Blooming Mushrooms, despite it conjuring visions of the Mushroom Kingdom in Secret of Mana, it feels very Kikuta, the song. It's just got that like nice gentle playfulness, that beautiful use of flute that he uses so well. And even like I feel there's just a couple like motifs that are very similar too, that kind of get in there that feel very Secret of Mana-y. Almost like the do 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 is almost there, but not quite. Like it's just like slightly just off from it.
It's just off to the side. Yeah.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because there was one point in this track that sounded almost exactly like a bell is tolling. It was like the beginning of a melodic phrase where it was a repetition of one note, like do 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 do.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought it up, and I was like, oh, I do hear that. I mean, just a little bit. It's not like it's derivative or anything, but I was like, oh yeah, I could hear that.
And that's another kind of Kikuta-ism that I've noticed is there are a lot of like occasionally he'll have really cool moments where he begins a melodic strain by repeating a note, and it's just, I don't know. I think that's effective too. I like it.
Yeah.
Like the do 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 do.
That's exactly
it's
it.
A great track. Yeah, I love it. Well, it makes the stuff playful. Like Kikuta always feels playful in his music. And that's what I was about to say too, is that all of the songs that we've picked, like a lot of them are very interesting, and you can clearly see, while you can tell it's Kikuta, like they're still very diverse and interesting. But sometimes then you'll get stuff like this that's so like rooted in who he is that, like, if I had heard this out of context, I just would have assumed this is part of Secret of Mana, and I was like, oh, how did I not hear this song? Where did this play? I forget, you know, because it feels very at home on like the 16-bit game that Tangledeep is trying to capture, and that rooted soundtrack of Trials of Mana and Secret of Mana.
Yeah. This is actually one of 3 games on this, 3.5 games on this episode I have played. Not a ton, but I've played it enough to get a feel for it. But if you didn't bring Tangledeep onto this one, I probably would have done it. So that was another, I'm not sure if it was quite as big of a success as Indivisible, but it was another, like, you know, success story. And it's just a fun little roguelike dungeon crawler.
Yeah, I think critically and just sort of in memory, recent memory, a lot of people speak highly of Tangledeep.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Like, I'm not disparaging it. I wasn't sure if it was one of those ones where like, hey, we surpassed our stretch goal by like 5,000%.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was that insane, but it's I think whatever resources they had, they used them well.
Oh, for sure.
Including financial resources.
Yeah. It's definitely a more modest title by comparison to something like Indivisible, but it looks like
fun.
It's well done,
it's a lot of fun.
The soundtrack is just outstanding.
Mm-hmm. I don't play a whole lot of like roguelike / dungeon crawlers, but I did get into this one, and I think part of it is the setting. I mean, not that every dungeon crawler is literally in a dungeon, despite that genre name, but there's the foresty setting, and like the town is adorable. The setting really worked for me, so I wanted to try it, and I have.
I think that's what. Sorry.
I have put like some number of hours into it, and about like this particular song and on this album, like I appreciate that the guest composers that Zircon got on this album, how like all the guest composers have their own sound, but it still all fits. It all feels like they're part of this collective whole. Except maybe Grant Kirkhope's theme, because it's like this really boisterous casino theme, which is just hilarious. But obviously that was the idea.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. It's overall just a really great sound. I think Kikuta like fit the soundtrack, and just all the music really complements the lush, like warm setting of the game.
I know that casino theme because you kept trying to put the entire Tangledeep soundtrack on like calming playlists, and then the casino theme.
Oh geez, yeah. I'm just like, Tangledeep has such calming music, and like I always forget about that one song.
And then it would show up on shuffle.
Yeah.
You go,
Yes.
I think that's the other thing why this Tangledeep song, this piece, feels so Secret of Mana too, because so much of Secret of Mana is such lush, woodsy environments too, which again Kikuta's music works beautifully in.
There's definitely a synergy there.
Yeah, I think it's the woodwind use
in the settings,
and the percussion.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyways, that's more a lot of what I have to say. I just think it's magical that they were able to get him on the soundtrack and let him lend his characterized voice to blending into the soundtrack, but still you can tell it's a Kikuta track.
Yeah.
Because of the title, I kept picturing some sort of like alternative Matango.
Oh yeah, that was the
Thank you. That's what I was
trying to think of the mushroom.
Yeah, mushrooms.
Thank you.
Matango mushroom.
Yep.
Was the king named King Truffle, or am I just making that up?
You are not.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, let's shift from mushrooms to postmodernism. What?
There's probably still mushrooms there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe I should have put those two together. So I was
trip.
I was absolutely not expecting to bring this one on, but it really surprised me. So My first song for the next block is The Essentia 2000 Arrives, which is what it's called on the pre-release soundtrack, but it's also on the final soundtrack as Exploring the Wilderness from Y2K, a postmodern RPG. I'm pretty sure it's Y2K. Please don't correct me.
Pretty sure it is well, yeah.
I mean, we could say YIIK, but it makes me laugh, but I don't think that's right. So yeah, that's what I have. And Hilary, we finally get to one of your songs.
Yes. So this also fits with this theme of Kikuta making music for a variety of smaller studios, indie kind of games. I'm bringing on Halls of Karba from Earthlock,
Nice.
formerly known as Earthlock Festival of Magic.
Oh yeah, they dropped the subtitle. Huh?
I think they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I
that sounds right. I
proposed
was going to say, like, is this a sequel I didn't know about? But that makes sense.
they are working on a sequel, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And listening to these both together, I propose that we maybe name this block our cinematic block, because both these songs have a kind of a cinematic sort of feel.
Okay. It's good with me. How about you guys?
I support it.
Okay.
All right.
Motion
I like
passed.
it.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Oh, Pat said he likes it. Okay, motion passed.
Yay.
All right, let's go listen to our cinematic block with the Essentia 2000 Arrives and Halls of Karba. So you guys know when you're looking up songs for a podcast, then you've thought of like, okay, like maybe that one, maybe that one. Hey, this might be a contender. We only get to pick 2. So I do try to be diverse, and especially on composer episodes, I want to pick something that might not be represented otherwise. Well, when I remembered that he contributed to or wrote 2 songs for Y2K, I don't know what I expected, but it was not this. This game has 100 tracks. The soundtrack has 100 songs on it. And other guest composers like Toby Fox did a song on this one too. And this one, and I apologize in advance. I know I'm not cool enough to use this expression, but other people at the site do. So I'm going to say that it slaps. It's just so like epic and energetic, and each new layer that comes in as the song plays just adds to it. And it's such a sound that I was not expecting from him, and I just adore it. I don't know specifically, like I didn't dig into it enough to know if he used like specific like PlayStation sounds or anything, because there is like a PS1 sound to me, which I imagine it is intentional given the look and feel of that game.
I think that's the aesthetic they were trying to go for with it.
Yeah, but like there's a couple notes. I forget exactly where it is. I didn't note the time, but like there's some notes and instruments that like sound a little bit like some of the cool like dramatic underground music in Mega Man Legends.
I mean, I would not be surprised if he tried to match that.
Yeah, I don't know. It really, really caught me by surprise. So I as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be one of them. It's so unexpected to me. So I just had so much fun listening to it.
I would agree. Like I did not see this song coming, because so much of the battle music I'm familiar with is mostly Secret of Mana from the works that he's done, and it's so much more cinematic, as Hilary said, which I don't always associate his music with being cinematic.
Did anybody else feel like it sounded slightly like Wild West, which also kind of threw me a little bit because
I could see it. Yeah.
Y2K.
I mean, I hear West, but maybe not Wild West.
Okay.
But it's a very Western sounding song for him. It's not steeped in his ethnic roots.
Yeah, I thought my mind was playing a trick on me because of the track title. I was like, oh, Into the Wilderness, the Wild Arms opening, Chikanuruke, and then like I hear the song and I'm like, oh, it's got a bit of like a Western sound. And
There's
I'm
a
like,
little bit of something. Okay.
I think for a while there, I thought it was just my mind looking at the track title and trying to read into a sound that wasn't there, but I could be wrong. And I think you thinking that makes me think I'm not crazy. That's great.
Good. At least half the panel agrees that there's something there.
We're not crazy, Hilary.
No, I don't
disagree.
Everyone's entitled to. Yeah.
Yeah, I would need to listen to it again with this newfound knowledge.
That's fair.
I think what you're hearing, I think it's like those like the staccato strings, like the punchy dun 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 kind of thing. It has a bit of that.
That could be part of it. It was a little bit in the melody too.
But it's good.
There are bouncy strings, music, which helps.
Yeah, it's very good. It's a very good song. It's I don't know if it's a battle song. Like it's the Ascent. What is the Essentia?
I don't know. This is not one of the 3 games I played today.
You know what else? Another thing that might be part of it is there is a section where it's very noticeable that the horns kind of provide the backdrop. Musically, they're kind of doing some long sustained notes in the background. Yep. That actually reminds me of Into the Wilderness specifically.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Maybe that's another.
I hear that. I hear that.
All right, there it is. Validated.
Part of it.
You validated yourself.
It's all good. It's fun to discuss and explore the different opinions.
Yeah.
That's what makes podcasting so great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just didn't expect this song to come out. Like he doesn't. It's like probably the song that I find doesn't sound like Kikuta at all. Really, like there's an artist probably from the PlayStation days who like I'm more associating this with, and I can't think of who it is.
Any games? Could we help?
Like Front Mission, like some of the Front Mission battle music and stuff from like the
Noriko
Front Mission 4
Matsueda?
And 3. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, did you say 3 and 4? Hayato Matsuo?
I wouldn't know them by name, to be frank, but yeah, like something like that kind of thing. Like it feels like that, or like I would have heard it in like a Trails of game or something. Like it's It it just seems it's a big departure for him, but like he does makes a great piece of music. It just lacks some of his hallmarks, probably because it sounds like so Western and epic.
Right. It's
interesting.
It's as though someone said to him, "Hey, don't use that sort of Southeast Asian hallmark for this track." And he goes, "All right, well, here's some other things I know how to do," because he can do, I mean, his versatility is really strong. And I think especially in his last 5 to 10 years, I think you can see a lot more versatility in his work.
Yeah.
Like he's really expanded his range.
Now I'm just sort of shaking my head and being like, yes, our postmodern RPG is firmly rooted in a narrow Western cultural framework. I'm like, wait, I don't think I like that.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm glad everyone was at least as thrown off as I was in a good way. So I really I really enjoy bringing on like unexpected things. But more so that people generally liked it. You know, I always worry sometimes. I'm like, I'm going to bring on something really weird, and sometimes people will be like, "Well, that was that was really interesting." Anyway,
no, this was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And just to clarify,
you brought on a song. Good job.
Oh, just to clarify, I'm not saying that is what happened with the soundtrack of the game. Just the idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
But moving along, though, unless we have anything else to talk about, Earthlock, that's a good song. Halls of Karba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it does get a bit more of his ethnic background in there.
I think it is a little bit more like classic Kikuta sounding, I would say.
It feels like a happy marriage of what we just heard with his roots.
And I think that's why ultimately it was... I will be honest, it was the last song that I picked. And I think I did kind of pick it as...
Ever? Are you leaving Rhythm Encounter?
No.
Never.
For this episode.
Okay. Not allowed.
Aw. Thank you.
Agreed.
I appreciate it.
I almost had a heart attack. I was like, no.
It's nice to be wanted.
Yeah.
No. Just because it sort of fills that gap, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
So I think I had that in mind when I was picking this, but I'm actually trying to find, there we go, a little bit more information on Earthlock because it is not a game I've played. It sounds cool though. And it's actually from a Norwegian development team, which I also think is neat.
Oh, that is cool.
But from what I know of this track, it is an icy kind of mine area, and I think it's late game. So...
Okay.
Which I also find interesting because that's very different from, the classic Kikuta ice areas in the Mana games.
True.
So I also thought that was a little bit of a neat contrast.
Yeah, it doesn't sound as fragile.
Right.
Yep. Less fragility.
It's this is more like the cold is very oppressive in this song. Like there's still a bit of the delicateness with like I don't know if it's like bells or what, like the ding,
yeah, there's a little bit of like tingliness, like you could pictures. The crystals aren't everywhere. They're just they're just here and there.
But it's but like this is threatening cold. Like it's don't stop moving or you'll die.
This is also like a pretty driving. Yeah, I could picture it being a late game song, which I thought was really neat because it's. Oh, I'm trying to think of how to say this.
Mm-hmm.
It's in line with a lot of the conventions that like we would expect for a late game song, Yeah. In a way that Kikuta doesn't usually fit into quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't always follow those kind of conventions. So
right.
Yeah. I know. I like it. And just to note, most of the soundtrack was composed by Iko Ishiwata, who we might recognize from the Final Fantasy VI acoustic album.
Yeah.
So this is yet another example of a collaboration where, he's fitting his music in with other composers.
Yeah.
Just here to fit in, everybody.
I'm not sure about the rest of you. Actually, when I wrote this note, it seemed like a really novel thing to mention, but we've mentioned percussion on like every track today. So I was going to talk about how the percussion here is really what works for me, and how it's like the driving force of the song and all that.
Hey, you're not.
Yeah, but like I like that that is of course an essential component of this song, but the song still gets, gradually a little more grand as it goes on.
Yep.
And well, I guess I'm not going to talk about who composed most of the soundtrack because someone took that from me. However, I'm going to share the weird thing I learned about her today while doing notes. Because I was looking up and I'm like, this is the last soundtrack like fully credited to her on VGMDB. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got to see like what's going on here because I really enjoy the whole soundtrack. And I realize we're a little off topic here, but this was too interesting that I'm going to share it. But
just you wait, I will make this tie into our next track.
Okay.
I have a very good segue.
Okay. But yeah, so somewhere after this or during this, I'm not sure when the studio was founded, but she founded a game studio named. Oh, did I write down the name? No, of course I didn't. That was really smart of me. Studio Ishiwata. That's really easy to remember, actually, based on her last name. But I was like, okay, why this great soundtrack, but then nothing else after that? Like, what's she moved on to do? Like, what's going on now? And well, now she's making a game. So she has the studio, and
so cool.
Yeah, and they're developing this game called Valiant Mirror, which. I'll put a link in the show notes because it's really interesting. There's not a lot to see, so I'm not sure how early it is, but it's described as an adventure turn-based 70s 2D JRPG video game inspired by American and Japanese animation collaborations. So weird. Like the concept art is really interesting. So again, major tangent, not even like the composer we're talking about today, but because I want to share some love for Earthlock and the soundtrack, and I just think it's really interesting what she's moved on to do. So I'm going to keep an eye on that game now.
Yeah, that's what Kikuta would want.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Let's hear it. And you know why Kikuta would want that?
Really why would Kikuta?
Yeah, we're gonna get there. I was actually I went down that same rabbit hole as you.
Pat knows what I'm going to say. She's following in Kikuta's footsteps because after. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you write some music for a game, and then you go, "Hey, I wonder if I could make a game."
And maybe I'll leave Square.
Maybe I'll leave something established to do something bold and dangerous, like try to make a game and still write music for it. Which Iko Ishiwata is listed so far as lead composer for Valiant Mirror as well. So,
yep.
I love that whole do it all yourself vibe, like Toby Fox, who we mentioned earlier, or Con Gao, the To the Moon trilogy, right? People that can do game direction and the music. It's like, oh, I got a lot of respect for you, and we're about to jump into that last section where we get to talk about a game where Hiroki Kikuta did just that.
Yep. Sure did.
Very nice.
Should I leap into it, or do we need to?
We have to now, right?
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So that game is Koudelka, the precursor to the Shadow Hearts series. And Kikuta left Square to found Saknov and develop Koudelka. And he did indeed wear all of the hats for that. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not much.
Wore a lot of hats.
Yeah.
He definitely wore more than one hat for that.
He was.
And then.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
He was deeply involved in the visual direction. He was bringing the dev team on trips to Wales so they could really get the aesthetic for Koudelka right.
Nice.
He took it all very, very seriously. And the idea when he left was to be able to have that sort of artistic eye and just have something cohesive and have a really cohesive atmosphere. So
yeah, we'll be hearing a track from Koudelka, which you selected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last track, I picked a song from a little-known PlayStation 1 action RPG called Soukaigi. And that was fully composed by Hiroki Kikuta, and it was the last thing he did with Square before he quit to found his own studio and make Koudelka. So this is I don't know if we call this the transitions block or the PS1 block. I don't know what you want to do with it. But these were the two games he composed back to back. Mine was his last one was Square, and then yours is him like going out doing it himself.
How about the
The
I'll
New
do it
Beginnings
myself
block?
I'll do it myself block.
All right, I'll do it.
And my track is the Requiem, which is the opening movie song from
Yeah.
Koudelka.
All right.
Yeah, and mine is track 3 from the Soukaigi soundtrack. It's called Quake.
All right. Let's go listen to Requiem and Quake.
Everybody, let's picture a creepy monastery in the Welsh hills with a cool psychic medium lady in a cloak on a horse riding up to it to get into the mood for Requiem, my next track. and also brush up on our Latin, because this is a vocal track, and it is in Latin.
Yeah. And beautifully sung.
Yeah. This is a track that I picked mostly because it had a big impact on me when I first played the game. The way everything fit together was just really, really beautiful. And I liked how it kind of felt like authentic monastery to some degree, which was definitely not an accident, because the vocals it's actually an arrangement of the Sanctus hymn, which is usually said or sung during the Eucharist. So if you've ever been to like a big, long mass, this is a variation on one of those hymns that you would hear during that process.
That's cool.
So it's kind of interesting that it's called a Requiem at the same time. And I've had a lot of fun thinking about those two things and how that kind of plays into the themes of the game. Because basically, like, traditionally, the original context of the vocals is kind of like Thanksgiving. The idea is an expression of the desire of the community to unite itself within the heavenly angelic liturgy. So like kind of higher power togetherness sort of theme, which I think is very interesting to think about when you realize that the three central characters in this game would be kind of branded and stereotyped as like bad people.
Right.
Interesting.
And they are flawed and sometimes selfish and don't really work together. But as the game unfolds, it's all about like them learning to work together and some of the maybe somewhat transcendent things that they can do for good when they learn about the evils happening in the monastery and things like that. So I don't know. It's just really cool to think about in that context. And I think that was at least to some degree intentional.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I am going to say I am ashamed of my lack of Koudelka playing. I actually went out of my way and bought the game a long time ago, but still when it was expensive.
Oh, no.
Probably not as expensive as it is now, but the 4-disc PS1 adventure that is hard to get through. I haven't done more than like the first hour. After playing through all the Shadow Hearts games, I was just like, yeah, I really want to play this. And yeah, I'm having a hard time with it, and I feel shame because I'm not normally bothered by games with obtuse mechanics. I am the lover of saga here at RPG Fan, so
that's a good point.
No,
yeah, it's been a bit of a tough one for me to get back into, and every time I'm like, well, instead of just playing the game, I could just like watch somebody let's play it or something.
Might be less painful. I mean, there are some.
Did Scott play it yet?
Not that I know of.
On our Twitch channel, maybe I can pressure him to do this.
I mean, it is difficult to get through. It is imperfect and slow. I think was my main problem, at least trying to get through it. It feels very slow.
It's the kind of game which, we don't need to get into the licensing status of Koudelka and Shadow Hearts, but it's the kind of game that would really benefit from one of those like quick like HD remasters with fast forward buttons, like especially the battles.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
The battle animations, I think, they're good. It's all nice to watch, but it's like,
the enemy designs in true Shadow Hearts fashion, they're gross.
Oh, they're all gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating game, but yeah, I have also not finished it. What are we? A couple hours in? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it is a lot about like what makes this game great is everything but the game. Like visually, it's like wow. Story, it's like wow. Characters are interesting. Yeah. Setting, super awesome. And then the music is just like baller good. But then it's just like you try to play it, and it's like, oh, these elements aren't coming together right. And that's when you realize trying to make a 3D RPG when 3D like was just kind of breaking through as viable in games is probably a big ask.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, if this had just been a 2D game, it probably would have been a lot easier to make and executed a lot better. But yeah, the soundtrack's great. I really like that you picked a song other than Waterfall. I know we've had Waterfall on before on Rhythm Encounter. I think that's sort of the song people tend to know. And I really do like this Requiem track. I do also like the idea that it's a Requiem, but it's not necessarily for what a Requiem would be about.
Yep. Exactly.
And I also like that it has vocals. Kikuta does great stuff with choir or chant-like vocals, which I will talk about in a bit. But yeah, I really like this Koudelka track.
The other thing about it that I absolutely love is just the sparse background. Like, you have a few chimes, you have a few like natural noises, but it's mostly just the vocals.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, I always like it when a song can like set a tone and set a mood so well, like just in general. But the fact that we've had this much discussion about it and the mood that it sets in the atmosphere of the game, like it's all represented here. And it's like, it's barely a minute and a half. Like there's a lot happens in that minute and a half. And I think that's just really impressive.
For me, that's another Kikutism, is that he excels at establishing a sense of place through his music and like a tone. He does such great work on everything he's touched to say like this place is a real place and this music represents it.
Yeah. Well, okay, I had to look it up because you brought it up, that he's good at that. I wanted to look at the runtime of Fear of the Heavens, and it's 1:42. So yeah, you're right on with that.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but he's again, given his background, right? Like it just kind of fell into brilliance with it. I'm curious what his like music background was outside of like schooling, like if he was just taking piano or whatever it is, kind of thing.
Yeah, since he wasn't formally trained, like what was he doing,
so to speak? Yeah,
just like, oh, I'm gonna do this,
right? Like, and before, like, YouTube could get me YouTube famous enough to do it for fun, right? Like,
exactly.
Like how did you get discovered? It's interesting. I'm sure there's an interview out about it somewhere, but this track, I don't know a lot of Koudelka aside from when you shared Waterfall in a previous episode, and this is a stirring, beautiful performance. The fact that it's an opening video like track makes sense to me now. Like I also was envisioning it sitting either in the background of like, you're in a church or in like in a quiet part of the world kind of thing, or it could have also been just a really nice stirring opening to the like the title screen. I could also see that being a very PlayStation thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful, nuanced little piece.
It definitely is. And I did a little bit of digging and actually listened to some of how this hymn would like traditionally be presented. And it is different from that. So it's also, I will say, quite neat to contrast that. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot more change in pitch, a lot more flowiness.
Oh, okay. Did you listen to some on YouTube or something? Oh, well, give me some links. We'll put that in the show notes too, so people can compare. I want to hear it.
And I guess not. This is kind of going like deeply into the game, but just to like get an idea of like how precise this choice kind of is. So what usually follows this hymn is a quotation that ends with "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord," and that's especially interesting given that there is a priest character in Koudelka who comes to the monastery and is not really quite who he says he is, and might not be the nicest person, but then also might not be as bad as you think he is too. So it very much fits in with the theme of the game. It's sort of like
intriguing.
Yes, what is good? What makes a good person?
Right.
So, I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know who the vocalist is? Because I could very much hear it being a choir boy, but also, or a countertenor, but also could be a woman. I'm not.
It
really
is a
sure
female
who.
vocalist.
It is, okay.
Yes, I can. Give me a second. I can tell you exactly who it is.
Did you write it down?
No, but I can
Rebi
find it.
Tanaka. Is that right?
Wow, that was fast.
Unless it's. Oh, is it Catherine Bott, the soprano?
That sounds right.
Okay, I hear it. Either way, she's got beautiful control of her instrument.
She
It's
was also
stellar.
She was also in. Catherine Bott also recorded on Xenosaga, I think.
What?
For
Yeah.
that theme for Albedo. Scary,
Yep.
dark theme. That's her.
Okay.
So she was, her credits. She was on Koudelka, and then
That's
Xenosaga,
awesome.
And then she did work on the Ava rebuild movies and Attack on Titan. So
Wow, that's awesome.
she's starting with Koudelka, and then from there she got in on some pretty cool projects in Japan. So
Yeah.
congrats, Catherine, for being awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
that's
appreciate
pretty
it.
neat. It's pretty neat.
It is a very good performance,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Does it make you like Quake in your boots? It's so good.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, Quake in your boots. I see what you did there.
I was waiting.
So-
I was looking for one.
So yeah, Quake is a great track. Though I will say, when we decided to do a composer focus episode on Kikuta, I knew I was going to pull a track from Soukaigi, but there were like 4 that I wanted to pick, and we have never featured music from this game on Rhythm Encounter before, and I had such a hard time narrowing it down. I got it down to 2, and that was Quake, which is track 3, and Firewire, which is track 4, and that is also very good. They're 2 very different songs. Firewire is very frenetic, fast paced, has this excellent violin work going for it. Quake, I picked because I really wanted to keep focus again on that sort of East Asia, Southeast Asia, traditional and cultural Buddhist kind of vibe, and the chanting and the vocals here, they're like, I don't know, this is definitely more East than Southeast Asian. Like, I'm thinking of like temples in China or in Japan, and I'm thinking of like yokai and magatama, little crystals and gems and things, and it has that whole vibe to it. And then in the midst of it all, you get like the most killer bass line ever.
Yeah.
Which, again, if Neil were here, Neil would vouch that is a killer bass line.
I'll also vouch.
It's got a little bit of funk, yeah.
Yeah, it starts out just like, all right, we got like, we're shaking our like handbells and we got people singing, and then all of a sudden like the band kicks in, and it's just like this super catchy song, but also on top of like hundreds of years of like interesting vocal traditions.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. That's all I had to say.
I was going to say the vocals kind of remind me of some of the vocals from the Shadow Hearts games a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
And I also think it's great that we paired the like religious Latin piece with this one. That's a fun contrast.
Well, as we talked about off air, like I was very completely aware that this was his last game at Square leading into like the next one. So that's why these 2 songs were together.
Square and then something else.
Yeah.
You're brilliant. I not to disparage the violin in this one though, because this one also has really a nice violin segment, solo segment that stands out. But yeah, it's interesting the places this one goes. It makes me think of a lot of stuff from 13 Sentinels.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Especially when you mentioned the violin part. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
The vocals.
This game is apparently like not considered a particularly good game. Never came to America. It was, and there's a handful of these really great soundtracks for not so great games from the PS1 era for Square, like Soukaigi with Kikuta, and then Another Mind with Junya Nakano. Like, those are like these really awesome standout albums where like you could forget about the game, but like the soundtrack is
We should do an episode about
so
that.
good. I think we did,
We did.
and I'm sure Unlimited Saga made it.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you're right.
And it's interesting is Kikuta himself, like one of the compositions he's cited as saying is like his favorite or the one he's proudest of is from another game like that never came here.
Oh, right. The one I keep looking at and thinking it's like, oh, Tail Concerto. But no, it's
Yeah.
No.
Concerto Night, Cross Night, something like that.
It is Concerto
was
Gate.
like-
Gate.
Concerto Gate. Yeah, he worked with Kenji Ito on it, which is
Uh-huh.
Wow.
it was like, oh, the early Mana team together. Like, yeah, we actually we reviewed one of the albums for Concerto Gate. I think there's 2 or 3, but we
nice.
had one of them reviewed.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, because at the time it was the first thing he had done in like 4 or 5 years. We're like, where did Hiroki Kikuta go? And then like that was the first thing he cropped up on. So like
very
people
cool.
paid attention just for that.
Yeah.
But no, this song's is really neat. Like I'm really excited for this discovery. It's neat hearing a band. Like I don't associate.
Yeah, the whole
with
album
band
is
music.
recorded with a full
Oh,
rock band.
that's
Like
awesome.
you look at the
That's neat.
credits on the album, it's and it's why the soundtrack is relatively short, is that they weren't doing any sequence music the whole game, and apparently the game also had heavy load times because it was pulling up actual tracks, like in like the way Tony Hawk Pro Skater pulls up, it would just pull up like 2 minutes of a song, right, by a band. Like, so you would have these really heavy load times in changing environments. So there were issues with the game's build, but screw it, the whole soundtrack's good. It's still worth it.
Yeah. I mean,
Worth loading.
it's one of those.
Worth the load time.
It's one of those games that I've heard about. Like I know it by name, but I've never really looked into it or have not heard the music until this one. So I'm very curious to listen to more. Even though from the sounds of it, it's probably not worth seeking out and trying to play it. But yeah, that's okay. Maybe I'll watch
and I
a
don't think
playthrough.
no one's ever done a fan translation patch to my knowledge either. So you'd have to. Good luck navigating your way through a game in Japanese.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I did it with Chrono Cross, and that was the first and last time.
That's right. I remember. Yeah, you were like, I must experience it now.
I had to. I was so into it. I'm like, look, this is probably going to come out in America, but I don't know because that was the time when RPGs could come out a year later or 4 years later.
Yep.
Right, you never knew.
So I was like, nope, I'm going to stumble through. I was asking people at the site how to, mod my PS1, and it was all fine. And then the weird thing you have to do was swapping discs, which got even more complicated with the 2-disc game. But boy, I stumbled through that. Thanks to Ken, anyway.
Aw.
Dude, Ken, shout outs to Kenneth Chu.
Yeah.
Super cool dude. The only time I ever played an import game like before it came out in America was summer 2000. I was in New York City, and a whole bunch of really RPG fan staffers got together on one day in July, and we went to Kinokuniya and bought awesome soundtracks. I think I bought the Legend of Mana soundtrack that
Yes.
Oh.
and but we played the Japanese version of Final Fantasy IX had just come out a few weeks before, and it would come out not long after in America. I think it made it out by November in America of November of 2000.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Ken had started playing the Japanese version of FF9, and we stayed at his apartment for the first 2 hours, seeing the first 2 hours of the game. We're jumping the rope, we're doing the whole play at the beginning, and he knows what it all means and we don't.
Yeah.
And he's telling us what's going on, narrating for us, and yeah, that was a very happy day, a very happy memory for me.
That's awesome.
Aww.
I didn't know about the Final Fantasy IX thing. I know you guys were hanging out back then, but
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff happening that day, but yeah, we played FF9, and also a Super Robot Wars game. Woojin Lee had brought that over, and we played some of that as well.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
I think it was Super Robot Wars Final, the F for final, even though
Boy,
it's definitely not the final one.
That's funny to think
That's a
about.
misnomer.
23 years later. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny thought. But yeah, I don't think I've ever, other than that time, I've ever played a import Japanese game that then later like the American version came out later, and then I got a hold of that.
Yeah.
Never other than FF9, and you did that with Chrono Cross.
Yep.
Either way, Soukaigi won't be the one that you do it with.
I don't know. They could do Soukaigi
import.
HD, and then it could come to America. I mean, they did it with Live. I know I said it wrong. I don't care. They did it with Live Alive, and they did it with Front Mission 2. 30 years later, they did it.
I mean,
so who knows?
That's true.
Though I will argue both of those games are probably better than Soukaigi.
Yes.
That's fair.
Live Alive, definitely. I haven't played Front Mission 2 yet, but Abe, great review. Abe did a review of Front Mission 2, the remake, so everyone should read that.
I'm excited to,
Yeah, go check that out.
Too much of a backlog.
I know, right?
Just
So
quit,
I better
just quit your
look
job.
for a copy of Soukaigi when I'm in Japan.
Yeah, while you're in Japan,
Bring it back for you.
Yeah, find the game and the soundtrack for like 20,000 yen each, because they're pretty rare.
No doubt.
And then hook us up.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you in advance for buying us all that stuff you're going to buy us.
Yes.
Yeah, bring us
copies
music.
for each of us. Copies for each of us.
Yeah.
So make it happen.
I'm going to bring you each a bowl of ramen and then mail it to you.
Oh, okay.
That's not
I'd
music.
take that.
I can't listen to
I'd
that.
still take it.
Oh, okay.
Still take it.
I don't know. I'm
Thanks for the food poisoning, Greg.
I'm excited for your trip, like
Yeah.
for music and games, especially because, like, obviously there's a lot of great things
I will
to
have
see
to temper
and
myself
experience.
so much.
Yes, but
If you
I
see a beat up used copy of the Soukaigi soundtrack for like less than like 5,000 yen, like you should absolutely get it because it generally goes for a lot more than that.
Aw.
And same if you see the Alundra soundtrack for less than like 15,000 yen, you should get it
Wow, is
because
that that rare, huh?
it tends to go
Jeepers.
for more
Yeah.
like 50,000
Wow.
yen. So like $400 to $500 is its current value. So,
I wonder what my
if you're in a used store and you see Alundra or Soukaigi for a decent price, buy it and then sell it to me.
In the bargain bin of the whatever Japanese equivalent of Shoppers Drug Mart. It's just down
Yes.
the bottom there. Like, oh man.
Yes, old PS1 soundtracks. You can do it.
we'll expect a photo of your haul.
yeah, for sure.
No doubt. But
right.
either way, this was a fun discovery.
It was. I mean, I feel like that's for me. That's true of a lot of tracks here today. So, thank you everyone for your really cool tracks and insights, especially, and research. I'm looking at you, Hilary.
I didn't mean
Yeah.
to.
Fun
go
facts
on.
with Hilary is some
Research
of the best
queen.
parts of Rhythmin.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, come on.
it is. It is.
Yeah, Kikuta trivia with Hilary is the best.
Thank you.
I mean, it's kind of what I wanted to see from these episodes. I think back when we were reinvigorating Rhythm Encounter and the discussion around it, I think I was the one who suggested composer spotlights or
Yep.
something like that.
We
But-
talked about it.
Right.
Well,
yeah, and then we kind of went off on it. But that's what I always envisioned is like, yeah, just little fun facts about them and
I,
just
def-
getting to know them as well as their music.
I definitely have the like conceptual level galaxy brain with these composers. So hopefully I didn't go on too long about religious services.
No. I mean, it was all relevant and interesting. So thank you.
If my teenage daughter is to be believed, the best part of podcasts is when they go completely off topic on tangents.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. All right. Yeah. So that is our episode. We actually have several debuts
Yay.
on Rhythm Encounter today. So today was the first time we've ever had music from Indivisible, Soukaigi, YIIK, or Y2K, and Earthlock.
Yay.
So
Yay!
yeah,
Another thing that I envisioned when we were talking about composer themed episodes is that we get new games.
and we
So-
definitely did.
Yeah, because we could, but we shouldn't have just 8 tracks from Secret of Mana or Trials of Mana, right?
Right. No, I'm glad we didn't. I mean, I'm glad you and I each made sure those two were represented, but
It was really tough to pick one, though. I mean, I had another one completely in mind from a rendition of it that I loved, but then someone had mentioned, like, oh, I think it was you, Mike, who had said in our chat about this, of like, are we all ready to pick what like we feel like best represents Kikuta, like distills Kikuta down into like, a single song choice kind of thing? And I was like, I can't pick a bunch of drunken dwarves singing. That's not what I think of the most as like representative
No.
of as
Greg.
fun as that is.
Greg, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You didn't.
No, don't. No.
So I swapped it, but
Yeah, good.
I do want to get that song in at some point because it's great because I do love the dwarf music. But yeah,
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about that at some point.
Did you? Okay.
We'll do a dwarf episode.
We
Just
absolutely
dwarf
should.
themes from
because
other RPGs.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
into it,
There's
rally ho.
Yes.
exactly. So there is a great mashup of those dwarves and the Secret of Mana dwarves
Oh, okay.
that some OC remakes are dead, and they had a great name
What?
for it. Yeah, they had a great name for it, which I think was "Girl, You Got a Nice Beard."
Oh yeah,
I think I've heard
I
that
think
one.
that was the one. I think that was the one I was almost going to bring on.
Yeah.
It's from Spectrum of Mana.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so good.
Yep.
And that was almost what I brought on until we, decided to class it up.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for classing it up.
Yep. All right. So those were our game debuts. Coming next on Rhythm Encounter, we are doing an episode about farming games. So I, unsurprisingly, will have some kind of Stardew song. I'm not sure what else yet, but yeah. So Stardew, Harvest Moon, Story Seasons. I mean, there's so many now. There's so many indie
Rune
farming
Factory.
games. Rune Factory.
I was
there's
gonna say.
tons.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone brings. That's coming
Me
up.
too.
And I know I've been talking about that for a few episodes. After that, we're doing a really, really interesting topic. I forgot who suggested this. Was this Hilary?
Hmm?
Who suggested the Build Drone RPG
Yes,
one?
that was me.
I don't know how it's going to go yet, but the idea is we're going to pick 8 songs and basically put an RPG together musically. So someone's going to pick a world map, someone will pick a battle theme from other games, and just see if
Very
we can
cool.
make some weird cohesive chimera of an RPG musically. So that is, I think, early January is the plan. So
That's gonna be fun.
yeah, so look forward to those. If you have feedback on this, if you want to share some of your own favorite songs, you can reach us at music@rpgfan.com. You can reach Hilary at,
Hilary@rpgfan.com.
and you can reach Greg at,
Hilary 8 RPG fan. That sounded like to me for a second. That
At
was great.
Hilary A. at.
Yeah.
I mean,
Eat the whole thing.
I don't think I could eat the website.
no.
At Greg Delmage, pretty much anywhere.
Okay. And Pat.
pgan@rpgfan.com. You can also find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Gameadactyl. It's the word game, the letter O, and dactyl.
Thank you. Never get
I
tired of
live
that.
for that description
Yep.
every single time. Yep.
Yep. All right. If you enjoyed Rhythm Encounter, be sure to check out RPG Fan's other podcasts. We have Random Encounter that goes up every other Monday opposite us. And I don't know what's going to be on that one, but it should be something interesting. We do have some really some cool topics planned ahead of time, but generally Random Encounter is, current features and news and reviews on the website. So check that out. You may also know
I hear the host is very cool and handsome, much like his former co-host.
That's true. You may also know Retro Encounter. Retro Encounter posts every Thursday. This episode is going up between 2 game journals. So Retro will have just finished a 2-episode game journal on Bloodborne. And I know everyone who's been on that one has been really
Mhm.
enjoying it.
Also a cool and handsome host.
That's true.
Mhm.
And then after that, they're doing a Dragon Age Origins. So close to saying oranges.
You were very close.
Solosi always says oranges, and I'm like, I'm going to say it wrong. And I
If that's not in the
Fighting-
game journal, I'm going to be upset.
I mean, I'm just going to,
Fighting scurvy
I think I'm just going to make the graphic and just have a giant orange. Like, it's not going to have a dragon. or
over the
anything.
protagonist's face.
Yeah, it's just me and give an orange head. So anyway.
Just the annoying orange face.
Yeah. So Bloodborne and Dragon Age Origins. So go check out Retro Encounter and Random Encounter. Be sure to check out RPG Fan everywhere else we are. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, still going to call it Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. Generally, we are at RPGFan.com. You can also, of course, find our website is rpgfan.com. And I only get a few more times to pitch this before the end of the year, but we have a shop with merchandise, logo merchandise mostly right now. And
It's good stuff.
recently, as of October, we introduced a new 25th anniversary piece. It's just some artwork that it shows like a timeline we call it transitions, of all the RPG Fan logos from the beginning. So we're only selling that through the end of the year. So if you want to get your RPG Fan logo transitions hoodie or shirt or mug or whatever you want, a few people on the site have just bought them. And I've seen a few of them. I've seen the baseball tee. I've seen the shirt. It turned out really nice and people are happy with them. So yeah, be sure to check that out at rpgfan.com/shop. Again, we're only selling it through December. So if you want that piece on whatever kind of merch, you have like a little bit of time left. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you listen. Review, subscribe, share it with people. We love that because we like getting more listeners and introducing more people to great music. So we are closing today with a bonus track that I'm so glad that it came up in conversation earlier, because one of the songs I almost picked was a track from Shining Arc. And Shining Arc, I don't know the exact story behind this unless you know it, Pat, but like, I guess it seems like it didn't get like a general soundtrack at first. They released like a fan disc later, at some point later on, that includes the whole soundtrack along with some other bonuses and stuff on DVD.
Yep.
So yeah, I was listening to it. I have it. I don't know why I have it. I don't know when I got it, but I was looking in my iTunes and I'm like, there it is. So it was kind of just a fun thing that I forgot he did a Shining game. So we are going to listen to Assassin from the Moon from Shining Arc.
Neato.
Yeah. So I hope everyone enjoys that. Thank you all for being here. Thanks everyone for listening. We're going to close out with Assassin from the Moon, and we'll see you next time on the farm. Bye.
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 All right.
But let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's get to
It's
it.
Koudelka time.
It is.
Let's rip her out the episode.
No. Okay. Hilary,
As the host, I veto that.
Just no. Just no.